Hi guys, hi, how's it going? How you doing today? Hopefully today finds you well. Today I am doing my collection of onesies, I guess, in my palette collection. This is the eyeshadow palettes in my collection that I only have one from the brand, and I think it's been a while since I've done something like this, if I ever have, to be honest. And I'm a little bit shocked at the amount of onesies that I haven't used versus the ones that I have used. So for the ones that I have used, I will also be discussing whether I would repurchase from this brand or no, and the whys behind that. So I hope that this sounds like it's something that you're interested in watching, and if it is, please keep on watching. For those of you new here, hi, my name is Donna. I'm a lover of all things high-end, colorful beauty and self-care. I also work in the beauty industry as a district leader for Ulta, and so I get a lot of education in my position. I like to bring you that education, so you're going to see a lot of reviews here on this channel, but I also just kind of like to talk about makeup. So I'm assuming that you also like to talk about makeup if you're here watching me. And if that's the case, I hope that you'll want to subscribe before you go. Please let me know down in the comment section that you've done so. I would love to welcome you personally into my YouTube fam, and let's get it right into this video. I would typically go one for one, but because I have so many more of what I haven't used versus what I have used, I want to get through those first. Those will be real quick and easy, I feel like, in my humble opinion. I do have 24 brands that live in my collection from a one palette mindset. So the first one I have here is actually this one, and this is by Suva Beauty. This is the Protégé palette, and this came to me in BoxyCharm so many years ago. And why I haven't used this, I have no idea. I think it's just kind of boring to me. Now, here's what I will tell you. I have looked up Suva Beauty, and I have looked up multiple different items from Suva Beauty, and this is a brand that interests me. I do also have like an eyeshadow, or not an eyeshadow, an eyeliner, a water activated eyeliner from them that I will probably never use because my eyes water just too darn much to put a water activated eyeliner on my eyes and anticipate that it will stay where I place it. With that said, this is the one and only eyeshadow palette that I have by Suva Beauty. I would love to know if you have the Protégé palette, if you've used the Protégé palette, and what your thoughts are on it. Like, realistically, when I look at this, both of these like eyeshadow stories, right? So this purple one and this orange brownish one are colors that I love to wear on my eyes. So why I haven't picked this up yet, I have no idea. I do think that a lot of it has to do with the very just semblance of the palette. Like, what are these two shades here? Are they supposed to be face shades? Are they also supposed to be eyeshadows? I mean, this one would go with this route, and this one could go in this route. I don't know why I haven't picked this up yet, if I'm honest. I did get it in BoxyCharm, so it is hella old in my collection, but I haven't used it yet. The next one I have is this one, and this is by Space Case. You know, I could probably put this into a palette that I have used because I have used this one, shadow out of it. But the rest of them I haven't used. They are really, well, based on this color right here, they are really, really beautiful shadows, really beautiful shimmers. You could probably use them also as highlights on your face because they're not super powdery. I do have this in my project pan. If I have done that project, well, I haven't because I'm wearing the same outfit that I was wearing when I did pull these into my project pan for the week, but I will link the project pan video up here because I do use this in another one of the palettes that we're going over in this video in that project pan. I'm excited to use it. I think it's going to be amazing. I hope it's going to be amazing. Hopefully it ends up still being in my collection at the end of the day. But that is just a quad that I haven't used. Here's what I have noticed though. I have, I think, 5 quads in this. So what I have noticed about myself is if it is a smaller palette, as is a quad, like I have to really focus on utilizing those smaller palettes in my collection. I.e., I just did a palette roulette on the elf quads that I had in my collection. I have 4 of them, and they're decent palettes. They really are. I ended up decluttering them, but I have had them in my collection for quite some time and hadn't even used them because they're quads. So if it's a quad, I really have to focus on bringing it into my life for the day, for the week, for the whatever, versus an actual palette. And I think that is why that one, amongst more that you'll see in a second, have not seen any use in my collection. Do you guys have the same problem? Like, I would be interested to hear what your thoughts are on your usage of quads versus your usage of actual palettes. Another quad is this one. So this is actually quite a bit newer in my collection. I did get it from a IPSY not that long ago. The packaging looks like this. It is stunning. It's hard. It is metal. It's heavy. It's beautiful. And I did swatch these, but that is as far as it got in usage. They are stunning. They are so, so beautiful. And I have some other Il Makiage single shadows in my collection that are also super beautiful. I do have a palette or a collection video coming up where I do swatch the singles that I have from Il Makiage for you. It's beautiful, but again, it's a quad. I mean, it's still in its box. Maybe if I took it out of its box and put it into my collection versus in my backups, which is where it was, I would see some usage out of it, but this one is out of its carton and in my actual collection, and I haven't seen any usage of it either. So the next one I have is this one, and this is by Hipdot. This also came to me through an IPSY, and again, it is just one that I haven't used. It looks beautiful. You guys, look at the detail on these shadows. Like, how amazing is this? I think that this is gorgeous. I haven't used it. I've heard really great things about Hipdot. You guys, if you've heard about these brands or have any experience with these brands, I would love for you to sound off in the comments section, because this palette is super boring, and I think that that's why I haven't pulled from it. Y'all know me, I'm not a neutrals queen, so I do think that that is why I haven't pulled for this palette at this point, but it is so pretty, like just beautiful. The next 3 I have are some quads. Again, like I said, they kind of round out this whole theory of mine in regards to quads. This one is by Charlotte Tilbury. I got this in my lucky bag. This is her Walk of No Shame palette. It is pretty. Kind of reminds me of the colors in this palette and some of the colors in the Protégé palette. Why haven't I pulled for these? I've heard really good things about Charlotte Tilbury, but again, it's a quad. And I think when it comes to quads, as I said, I really have to make a conscious effort to do it. Then we have this one by Mellow Cosmetics, which I think is kind of a lighter version of the Charlotte Tilbury. As a matter of fact, when I pulled this into my collection, I was like, oh my god, that reminds me of a Charlotte Tilbury palette. These two would go really well together for, like, you know, color story wise, how they could interact with each other. But yeah, another quad that I have never used in my collection, and I actually have a discount code for you for Mellow Cosmetics that, you know, earns me some money too if you use it, but I have never used that. And then I have this one by Reina Robalde. This is from my aunt. Really nice packaging. I think it's really nice heavy plastic packaging. It was at Walmart. She got it from Walmart. And is that why? Or is it because it is blues? Or is it because it's a quad? I mean, here's that. I love blues. This one was slightly broken when she brought it to me, so that one is a broken shadow. But just looking at these are beautiful shades. I love wearing blue eyeshadow. I love kind of feeling the blue, which hasn't been the case always. But again, it's a quad, and I haven't used it. I got this in my lucky bag last year. This is by Wayne Goss. This is his luxury eye palette in Imperial Topaz, and this is what it looks like. It's not a quad, but it might as well be. I have swatched. It looks like I've swatched this one, but I don't even remember doing that, so maybe did that shadow just kind of explode? I have no idea. It's not a quad, but might it might as well be. And again, it's got kind of that boring color story that I don't 100% love. So I don't ever pull for, I don't ever go, oh, I want to wear neutrals today. Let's pull for this neutral eyeshadow palette. And I think that that's part of the reason. But I want to try the brand. I want to try the formula. I've heard really great things about Wayne Goss's formula. So another one that is in my palette roulette for this week as I'm filming this is this one here, and this is the Venice Fling. This is by Estate Beauty. This is the only palette that I have by Estate Beauty. I think it's beautiful. It is in my palette roulette, so I will see some use out of it this week, but I haven't used it yet, and it's been in my collection for probably 2 years. This is another one that I got from IPSY. I have heard really great things about Estate Beauty, and I do have a highlighter from them that I tried to declutter way back when, and my friend was all, don't declutter that. That's the best highlighter I have. Swatch it first, because I was going to declutter it without swatching it. Swatch it first, see what you think. I fell in love with it. I've used it 100,000 times. It's amazing, an amazing highlight. I'm anxious to see what these shadows do for me, but that's where I'm at with Estate Beauty. The next one I have is by IPSY. It's IPSY's house brand. And I've had this palette in my collection for a while. I got the other one and traded my friend for this one because I thought I'd use this one more. It's the Tetris palette. I don't even know that this is worth keeping in my collection, if I'm honest, but man, those are so pretty. This is a pretty colorful palette. Maybe I should pull together something that is super neutral and something that is super colorful together into a palette roulette and get some of these one-timer eyeshadow palettes out of my like haven't used pile, and maybe that is how I can do this. But I mean, God, those shadows are beautiful. Why haven't I used it? Do you guys have the IPSY Tetris palettes? The one I got was really pretty also, but really very basic and neutral. And I knew I wouldn't use it if it were neutral. So I traded a friend, and I still haven't used that. I'm a disappointment to myself is what I am. This one I have been him and hawing about putting into my giveaway stash. This is the eyeshadow palette by Real Her. And it is the Dreams So Big palette. This is what the container looks like. And I do have it open down here. I'm going to try and be very careful and not touch it, because if I do put it into a giveaway drawer, then I don't want my fingerprints to have been on it at all. But this is what the palette looks like. Again, just so damn neutral. Like, am I really going to use this palette ever? I really don't think I am. But again, it's a palette from a brand that I've never tried. Tell me what you guys think of the Real Her eyeshadow formula. If you have it, I would be interested to hear whether it's worth it or not in your opinion, because if it's not worth it in your opinion, chances are it's also not going to be worth it in my opinion, and then I will just put it into my giveaway drawers. The next one I have is this, and I'm actually really intrigued with this. This is by Complex Culture. This is one that I will be keeping. This is also a brand that I think is an IPSY house brand, if I'm honest, because that's the only place I've ever seen it. I have a blush palette from them, like just a blush duo from them. I have some brushes from them, and then I have this, and I died when I saw this eyeshadow palette. Tell me why. It's neutral. Why did I die for this eyeshadow palette? I have no idea, but it's really pretty, and the pans are huge. I know it doesn't look like it on camera, but the pans are really quite large. They're giant rectangle pans, and it's just a beautiful, like, day to night kind of eyeshadow palette. Really great for a brown smoky eye, and I think that I love a good brown or black smoky eye, so I think that that's why this palette intrigues me so much. This one will stay in my collection and eventually see some use. I do think so, but not today. This one also intrigues me. This is by Belle and Argent. This is also one that I got from IPSY. I got so many palettes from IPSY. It's not quite as heavy as the Complex Culture one, and it's not quite as big, but look at how pretty these shadows are. Like, these sparkly ones super intrigue me. I don't know if you guys can see that, because, you know, with the silver, the camera doesn't want to necessarily focus, but they're so pretty. I do see me wearing this. I do see this being a really great travel palette for just those shades that I really love to wear on my eyes. I haven't looked much at this brand, so I don't know a whole lot about this brand, but I don't know. It'll get used. It will get used. I have this one by One Size, and this one came to me via FabFitFun, maybe? This is a palette that I saw come out when it came out. Really, really proud of Patrick Starr and where he's gone with his brand. This was a palette that I was never, not one time, ever interested in. The shape of it kind of weirds me out, right? I'm very much a square rectangle kind of person. Like I need everything like very symmetrical. This is what the palette looks like. Never once interested, but then I got it in my hot little hands and I think it's kind of pretty. It kind of looks like a palette that I could use. There's not a whole lot. I mean, there's neutrals in a way that suits a colorful lover. You know, it's got that blue, it's got pops of green, it's got some really pinky tones to it. I really do think that I would like this as far as color story goes. But it's rather new, so like it definitely hasn't been in my collection as long as some of these other ones have. This one I just bought, and if hopefully the haul video will go up before this one will, but I bought it because I only have, this is actually kind of a cheat. I do have 2 eyeshadow palettes from this brand, but the one other eyeshadow palette that I have from this brand is an Andy Warhol flowers painting palette, and I will never use that palette that I bought because of just how beautiful it was and because of what it represented. So I will never use that as an eyeshadow palette. That is not even an eyeshadow palette that's in my collection as part of my inventory, if I'm honest, because I won't use it. So truly, this will be the first time I have ever experienced this brand from an eyeshadow perspective. And this is the Summer Unrated eyeshadow palette. And you know, here's the thing, when it came out, it spoke to me, but I was like, do I need it? It's a lot of neutrals. And then, you know, it's in my stores and it was sold out for the longest time. And I was in a store the other day and I was looking at it and I'm like, I need it. I don't really need it. Like, these are neutrals, but these are neutrals that really appeal to a color lover, right? There's not a whole lot of browns in here. There's a whole lot of pinks and a whole lot of oranges and a whole lot of bronziness. I really do love the color story. I played with it quite a bit in the store. I swatched it quite a bit. I walked around with those swatches on my arm forever. I love the packaging. NARS always does a really great job with packaging. So I'm really excited to get some use out of that palette. Really excited to put that on my eyeballs. This is the Alamar Cosmetics Reina del Caribe palette. And this came to me in a BoxyCharm. And it was the funniest thing. I got this in a BoxyCharm and we were so used to, at that point, not really spectacular pigmentation in the palettes that they were sending. I think the best palette at that point in time that we had received, or that I had received from BoxyCharm, was like the Winky Looks Kitten palette, which I still have and still love. But it doesn't have the pigmentation on it that some other palettes do. It has great pigmentation, but not... Okay, when I say pigmentation, I'm talking specifically about these shimmers. When I swatched these on that video to see what they looked like, I was stunned. Like, when I look at like this blue one here and this one here, like, just truly. And again, this palette is eons old. It's so old in my collection. Would I purchase from Alamar Cosmetics again? I absolutely would. Let me just tell you, I have thought about it time and time again and can't really fathom why I haven't pulled the trigger on purchasing the Volume 2 Reina del Caribe, but they also have a couple other palettes that I would be interested in purchasing. The great thing about this brand is it is ran by Gabby, who used to work for BoxyCharm, so she has her thumb on the pulse of cosmetics. She does a really great job of making cosmetics that suit multiple skin tones and I just love her so much. She's such an amazing person, and I would definitely purchase from this brand again. This wasn't that expensive. What I don't love about it is there's only 8 shades in it, and I don't feel like all of these shades really speak to each other. There's 4 shimmers and 4 mattes, and I don't necessarily think these 4 mattes speak to all of these shimmer shades, so I do feel like you have to pull in another palette to make this one work, but I love those shadows. I do believe I have palette roulettes on all these that I have used, except for maybe one. So I will make sure that the playlist is up in the cards as well so that you guys can go look for them. This one is by Uma Beauty, or Oma Beauty. This is the Black Magic Allure palette. And this is another one that I was shocked at how I felt about this palette. It's very much a like fall tone palette for me, very much a like grungy subculture type vibe palette for me. I would 100,000% purchase from this brand again. I haven't because I have other, I mean, you guys saw the ones in my collection that I haven't used yet. I am trying to be better about my purchasing habits, so I haven't quite yet purchased from this brand again, but I do have my eye on quite a few of the palettes that I want to purchase from them. These shimmers are just amazing shimmers, like so easy to use, so beautiful. What I would say about them though is that they are really gritty, so if you're not into like glitter, then you won't like this. I am not a glitter fan, but I do love this palette. I just popped some glitter glue on my eyelids, which I don't do for very many brands. Amazing brand. This one I do not have a palette roulette on, but I have used it quite extensively. This is the Lorac Pro palette, you guys. Who doesn't know anything about the Lorac Pro? So I haven't, this is actually, I was shocked. I was going through my spreadsheet the other day and shocked that I haven't done a palette roulette on this. Also, equally shocked that this is the only Lorac palette that I have in my collection. I have had multiple Lorac palettes, okay? I've had the Lorac Unzipped palettes, I have the Lorac Pro 3, I had the Lorac Pro 2, and now I have, this one is the Lonely Survivor in my collection. This one speaks to me more than any of those other ones did. I would purchase from Lorac again. What I love most about these palettes, the setup of these palettes, is one row is mattes and one row is shimmers, so it's that exact 50-50 mix of mattes and shimmers that I really honestly love, and they all seamlessly work together. This is probably the best white matte shadow I have in my collection and the best black matte shadow I have in my collection. They're super pigmented, but they don't really stain. They also don't really fall out all over your face. Like, these are really great shadows. And why? Again, equally surprised that this was the only Lorac Pro palette or Lorac palette that I have in my collection. I know where the other ones went, and I know why they went, but I love Lorac as a brand. Their formulation is really good. I would be interested in trying some of their new palettes that are a little bit bigger, and I heard that there's some new unzipped ones coming out, which I'm so excited about. The next one is this. This is the Becca palette. This is her Pearl Glow shimmering palette, and you know, if I'm honest, this was a palette that I put in my declutter because it doesn't have really great pigmentation, if I'm honest. But these 6 shadows in the middle, they're domed shadows, and they remind me of shimmering skin perfectors for your eyes. And I loved that so much. And this one here is stunning. So pretty. All of these are super pretty. Now, with that said, I had another Becca eyeshadow palette in my collection that I decluttered. If I had done this way back when, I would have said I would never buy another Becca eyeshadow palette. There are some things that I think that they did well, and some things that I just don't think that they did well. Eyeshadow is one of the things that I just don't think that they did well. I don't think that they did eyeshadow very well. With that said, you can't get Becca anymore. So this will probably live in my collection forever, because you can't get Becca anymore. The other eyeshadow palette, it went by the wayside. I think I gave it to my oldest daughter way back when I decided to give it away. And it was a gift from a friend. So I painstakingly decided to give that away because it just wasn't going to work for me. But this palette, not only beautiful on the outside, but some of the most beautiful, like easy to use, shiny but not glittery, shimmery eyeshadows. I will keep it in my collection forever. Now this one is by Flower Beauty, and it's the Jungle Lights palette, and it has been a cult favorite. Super cheap packaging. It's a drugstore item, but these shimmers in here are also really super amazing. Really super amazing. Easy to use, super creamy, do not exacerbate texture. They have 2 more of these kind of palettes. One of them just came out. I want them all. I will purchase them all. At one point in time, I will purchase them all. It took me forever to jump on this bandwagon. This guy is like $19, and I'm like, that's super expensive for 6 freaking shadows at the drugstore. But well worth it. I mean, you guys saw how easy that was to put onto my hand and not even have to go back over it to make sure that it was, you know, standing out on my hand, but also not have to wet it or anything like that. Like, it performs like that, easy peasy on an eye look. Like, I couldn't ask for anything better. The next one I have is this, and this is by Midas, and this is the Artistry 1 palette, and I did get this in a Valentine's surprise box or mystery box that I ordered from them. I got this one and the Artistry 1.2, which was too similar for me to keep both. So I kept the one that interests me the most, and it is this one with kind of the bolder pastel colors and the duochrome over here that leans a little bit more pink versus the duochrome in the other one, which leaned a little bit more yellow. Do I love this? Yes. I kept it in my... the only reason why I didn't keep both in my collection is because they were just too similar. It was too similar to keep both of them in. Some other things from them that I really love are their lip glosses. Their lip glosses are fantastic, like chef's kiss, fantastic. The next one I have is this, and this is the Sugar Pill Fun Size palette. Now, I can't remember if I've done a palette roulette on this palette or no, but I do know that this is a palette that I bring into many of my palette roulettes as kind of a blend out palette. I use it to blend out like deeper, darker shades. So Sugar Pill is a brand that I have been wanting to try pretty much since I started YouTube. It was a brand that was brought to my attention by Georgia Harris, if you guys remember her. She used to do a lot of Sugar Pill shopping. She used to have the Sugar Pill eyeshadow palettes with the giant pans of Sugar Pill eyeshadows in them. And then I found out that Ulta was bringing Sugar Pill in. None of my Ultas had Sugar Pill, and I mentioned it in a video, and my friend Grace, who lives in California, who is the same position I am in one of the California markets, had this in her store. And she took a picture of it and she sent it to me, and she goes, "Are you still looking for this palette?" And I'm like, absolutely, yes, please get it for me. Now, Grace is my confidant, but she is also somebody who helps my habit get what it wants to have. She's also the one that helped me get the Amore and Eternal palette from Milk Cosmetics. I love her so much. She purchased this palette. I sent her the money. She purchased this palette, and I got the palette in the mail. This is what it looks like. This is like my idea of the perfect pastels. You guys can see these are pastels on crack. They are very color-based, not white-based, so they're not going to get super, like, chalky on your skin. This is just a wonderful, wonderful pastel palette. Now, they have Fun Size Palette 2 that I would love to get my hands on also, but it's not one that I have picked up yet. Again, just going through the ranks of what I have in my collection, what I haven't used in my collection. I really want to get some usage, more usage out of the palettes in my collection. I mean, it pains me to see that I have 14 palettes from just the one and done brands that I haven't even used. So I will purchase more from Sugar Pill in the future. It's just not going to be at this moment. The next one I have is Ebates. So Ebates is a brand that I've tried multiple things from, but this is the only eyeshadow palette I have from Ebates. And this is the Astrolights Jeweled palette. And I absolutely would purchase this palette again. And I absolutely would purchase another palette from them in this line. I've heard really bad things about some of their other products, but this was awesome. I loved using this, and this is kind of like a boring color story when you think about it, but this shadow here in the center with the bow on it, it's kind of a duochrome shadow. It's just so pretty. Do I think that it goes with the rest of the colors in this palette? Maybe not so much, but this was a really gorgeous palette. I could have pulled this eye look that I have on my eyes out of this palette. Like, I just really loved this palette. It was a really easy palette to use, really pretty palette to use, and also the packaging, tell me this isn't gorgeous. It's a metal carton, and this is like duochrome hollow. Oh, so pretty. It looks like it's got like confetti in it, but it's not. It's just silver stars all over it. The last one I have is this, and this is the by Beauty Bay New Romantic palette. And if you guys watched my palette roulette on this, or if you go to watch my palette roulette on this, I was like, this palette could replace the ABH Modern Renaissance palette in my collection. Like, I honestly would pull for this palette before I would pull for Modern Renaissance these days. Modern Renaissance is really old in my collection, but that isn't why. I really just feel like this one had a lot more variety to it, but also gave the same kind of pigmentation that the Modern Renaissance palette did, but it has so much more in it. And the shimmers in here and the metallics in here and even the mattes in here are just better, in my opinion. And by Beauty Bay is like drugstore price point, right? This palette cost me $15. The ABH palettes are $45. I actually have a cart going on Beauty Bay right now, and it includes 3 of their palettes. One thing I'm sad I missed from Beauty Bay that I would have picked up in a heartbeat knowing what I know now is the what is it called, the Black Magic palette or the Purple Magic palette, or I can't remember. Anyways, it was a beautiful purple palette that I wish I had picked up, but I didn't. I mean, that's forever going to be my FOMO moment, specifically knowing what I know now about the by Beauty Bay brand. But I have picked up several things from the brand, and I love, you know, so many things from them, so I would definitely purchase from them again. Those are my palettes, the brands in my collection that I only have one palette from. I would be interested to hear what palettes you have in your collection that are by brands that you only have one from, and would you repurchase from those brands? And what do you think about the palettes that I didn't use specifically or haven't used specifically yet? I would love to hear your thoughts on those palettes, and I do hope that you enjoyed this video, and I hope that you enjoyed it enough that you're considering giving it a big thumbs up. It really does help our channels out here. I also hope, like I said in the beginning, that you loved it or me so much that you want to subscribe before you go. Please let me know down in the comment section. I would love to welcome you personally. And with that said, I hope that the month is treating you all kindly. I hope that you and yours are well, that you're safe, and that you're healthy, and that you're getting along as best you can in this crazy world that we're living in right now. I hope that you are all loving each other, but loving each other from afar. And until next time, bye friends.